Battle of Ohio. We'll talk about this coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
I'm Ace.
We got a special show as always.
The voice of the Bengals.
Hello,
world. Willie Anderson. Corey Dillon.
The name of this thing is called Wincinnati, and I'm not going to stop.
Talk to us about that roller coaster season.
I'm still gonna give you the same AJ.
I'm gonna work as hard as I can to be the best.
Always working ever since I met y'all, boy.
I gotta get your top 5 receivers. Better, man.
Watch out for us.
Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I am Ace. He is Zim. Your Bengals are getting ready for the Battle of Ohio, taking on the Browns as the end of the season is near. Obviously, this isn't a game that is going to do anything to help the Bengals' playoff chances, right? The season officially ended with the Bengals in terms of the postseason and on the last game with the loss that they just had. However, there are some things that we do want to touch on with this being kind of close to the end. There's a couple things with draft position that are up in the air. There's a lot of this matchup that could happen. You talk about Trey Hendrickson having 17 sacks, what that means for him to try to go forward and do some things. Him and Jamar Chase were named to the Pro Bowl, and then Jamar Chase has some pretty interesting quotes from today. Let's start there, man. I know, Zim, you talked a little bit about the quotes from Jamar. He had some things in there. One of the quotes was, "I know what I want," essentially alluding to him wanting to keep the Amigos together. He said that those are his brothers, but he is also looking at his contract as well, right? Because obviously this offseason, Jamar Chase is eligible to be extended for a major extension. Obviously, the Bengals are definitely counting on looking into that. However, he did kind of leave the door open for Teasdale, like, hey, I don't know if I want to take too much because – I do want T back, but he also mentioned not holding his brothers back and not letting them get the shine that they could possibly get in a bigger role somewhere else. What were your thoughts on
it? There was a lot that he said. I mean, Jamar Chase is very, very candid when it comes to, to the media, and he actually received a reward for outstanding, responsiveness to the media, whatever today. Like, I thought that was fun.
The Bengals Good Guy Award, media, Bengals Good Guy Media Award is what he ended up winning.
Jamar Chase said, and I quote, "It hit me this week. This could be his last game with T. Higgins and or Tyler Boyd." He took a second to reflect. He said, "Lots of memories, lots of laughs, just a lot of bonding going on with those guys. Something I can't explain. That's how much fun we always have." They do. Like me and Ace, we know, and I've been out with. They have lots of fun. They're like brothers for real.
They really are.
Jamar Chase offered on free agency. On free agency, they know I want them. They know what I want. End of the day, it's what they want. I won't hold anybody back from what they want. Let them be the greatest that they can be. I support everything they do. He also said, "I'm sure something can happen. I don't know how hard it is, how hard he may have to try, but I'm sure that they may try to get something done. I hope they do. If not, who knows how it will be in the future." He says, "Lord knows I want to do that." As far as like his extension this all season, they asked him about the Justin Jefferson deal. He talked about. They say, "Who's going to go first?" He said, "I'm gonna go. Justin Jefferson going to go first because Chase is pretty much telling everybody, I want to set the market." One thing that was very important about what I thought he said, and it's something that I'm expecting the Bengals fans and Bengals to do. And I need everybody to kind of understand this part. He talked about him getting a huge signing bonus. Back in the day, that was frowned upon. Currently, right now, I'm going to shorten this up as much as possible. A lot of Bengals fans are talking about, I want the Bengals to do this in the draft. I want the Bengals to go draft this guy. To me, that's letting the front office off the hook. I'm looking for the Bengals to go spend cash up front, signing bonus to Jamar Chase and not have a heavy cap number and not hide behind a heavy cap number. And if you're not quite as savvy on cap stuff, I'm going to just simplify it as much. They could hide behind a cap number, give them a huge salary, and then pay them, X amount of money like every week and slowly get the money out their pocket type stuff. Or they could have, I'm just throwing this out there, he could have a $40 million signing bonus like the same as Joe Burrow, and it would lessen the cap hit. Why is that important? Because then they're able to sign way more people along the line. Orlando Brown's cap hit, the reason why the Bengals are able to sign players currently right now, or they have $84 million in cap space, is because of different things that they've done to, like sign Orlando Brown to a huge signing bonus or Joe Burrow to a $40 million signing bonus, lessening the cap hit. And that's what I'm looking for the Bengals to do. So on one end, Jamar Chase is saying, yeah, I want my money. And you're like, man, I hope it ain't too devastating. But if they pay a lot of cash for it, it won't affect their ability to go get other players. And that, to me, is the most important thing in the offseason. The front office owes the Bengals fans. They owe us players before we even go to the draft. I'm talking top-notch players, big-name players, along with some of those depth guys that you see teams stack up after the draft, too. They need all of that, and that involves them spending cash up front, signing bonuses, not salary. We don't want that. We want them to spend their money so that we can fit as many people under the cap. People say the cap is imaginary. The reason why they say it's imaginary is because teams like the Browns are spending the money. And they're not giving people salaries that they're paying out every single week. They're giving them money up front. Like last offseason, Deshaun Watson got a signing bonus of $70 million so that it lessened the cap hit. And every single summer, they're going to do the same exact thing. I'm not telling the Bengals to do that, but they need to spend the cash.
Yeah, so speaking of some of those, I know you kind of talked about the salary, and obviously we want to concentrate on the guaranteed money, but if you're just looking at it from a market value perspective, this is courtesy of Spotrac. The expected market value for Jamar Chase is $26.1 million a year. For T. Higgins, they have that at $16.6 million a year, which is actually pretty good because considering before this season, a lot of people thought that would be around 20. That's where they currently have it. DJ Reader, $16 million a year. Jonah Williams, $14.9 million a year. Tyler Boyd would be $8.7 million a year, and Jake Browning would be $5.2 million a year. So those are just some of the calculations. That sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like they expected T's kind of deal to go down, and it looks like it's based off of a average of Mike Williams, Michael Gallup, Christian Kirk, and Chris Godwin. So guys that have similar deals, but 16.6 sounds way more doable than the 23 or wherever it was at before the season started. Do you think that any of those are going to be realistic? Like,
no.
No.
Spotrac takes that formula, and it does use a formula based off of production. A lot of times it's not updated enough. I don't know when the last time that was updated.
No. This is an average of 4 contracts. So it's Michael Gallup's contract, Christian Kirk's, Chris Godwin, and Mike Williams.
But when did it, because
when they signed it, basically the deals that they have now.
Yeah, because they're using a formula based off of the production of guys or whatever, but it's not factoring in, and it factors in age a little bit and stuff like that, but it's not factoring in a lot of different things. Like the DJ Reader injury is going to bring his.
So you're saying that it's oversetting the number.
Some of those are up, some of those down. T. Higgins at 24 years old, multiple 1,000-yard receiver. Deontay Johnson gets 20 million. Bro, T. Higgins didn't make his value go up, but it ain't down to 16. And I thought it brought it down some. The Jamar Chase one at 26 cap. He's gonna be we'll be lucky if we get 28. But that's why it's very important that the Bengals spend cash and give them a huge signing bonus up front so that we don't really care. Like, we're not going to really trip off of his cap hit until like 2026, where some of the salary is then started to factor in, because now that isn't part of the signing bonuses that they're about to plan right now. So that's the difference to me. Like, Tyreek Hill is at 28 at 28 million at close to 30 years old. Jamar Chase is getting $28 million at 20. Jamar Chase is still the youngest wide receiver on the Cincinnati Bengals. In the thing he said in that interview too, I want Justin Jefferson to go first. Justin Jefferson isn't getting a dollar under 28. I think he'll probably be at 29. Jamar Chase is about to sign for $30 million. He did say something very important in that interview, and he said, a lot of it depends on me. Like, maybe if T comes back, which leads me to believe that they will have a conversation and say, bro, what can we do? I'm now kind of understanding this offense a little bit more. I think a lot of people like myself, and we'll get into this all season, I've kind of fallen in love with the concept of tagging T, and maybe somebody sends like a first or whatever, and maybe they don't. But then we get one last year of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins next year. But to me, the evolution of this offense can't be Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the outside, and then teams double teaming them on the outside, and then you don't really got any viable options like in the middle of the field. And to me, it's kind of like the changing of the guards. That's why you're going to see me pushing like Brock Bowers pretty heavy this offseason. If we were to lose this game coming up on Sunday, I think there's a realistic chance if the Bengals are picking 12-13, I think Brock Bowers might be there. And I think, to me, the evolution of this offense in us running the football a little bit more, just a little bit more, and balance and utilization of the tight end involves something like that. And then you get that money that you would have used on T. Higgins. Me and EA were having a conversation. He was saying, let T. Higgins go now. Give me the $20 million now so that I could use it for things that we're talking about, defensive line play, offensive line play, and all these different things like that. And in my mind, the Bengals, they're rolling over $10 million of unused money. To me, I don't need them to get rid of T. Higgins to go get me $20 million. They've already rolled over 10 in unused money. And now I care about the draft, but I'm very, very anxious to see the Bengals. What is their front office going to do to spend money to go get guys? And that involves cash.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what they're gonna do on the T thing. The thing that I don't get though is if T is going, they're going to double team Jamar every single game. And so, like, is the person that's the replacement going to be as good enough as T. Higgins to possibly make them not do that? That's the only thing that the kind of pushback I will probably have on that is, like, everybody's then going to just double team Jamar. It's very similar to what happened when the Bengals lost Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu. What happened? Teams just keyed in on AJ Green, and then we didn't have a second option that was viable enough to open it up until we got T. Higgins. So we'll see, man. I mean, it's a long off seasons. I do think, like you said, if Brock Bowers is there, especially if they take the L this weekend and they're around 12th or something like that, they're in a position to where if they even want to trade up to get Brock Bowers, let's say Brock Bowers is going to go, they got to move up three spots or something like that to get him. They can. Either way, though, I think they'll get a good player at that position, right? Like, even if they're 12th, you kind of talked about Doomsday. He could be there. You could be looking at a situation where you get Doomsday for the foreseeable future. You tag T and you have Uno. That could be a nasty. That's a nasty three there.
There's different ways that, to me, like how you're saying, like, say you don't have T. Higgins. There are ways where the Bengals could go like two tight end sets where you got T. Huddy and like a Brock Bowers and you got Jamar Chase. Now you're forcing personnel because now you can't put little corners out there on all on tight ends. And then, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of strategy and stuff. And then, like, say we go those two running back sets and then you got those two running backs running out the backfield, but then you're like out there trying to cover the outsides. We're going to kill you underneath whoever the running backs are. So there's other ways that they could do it. I like, me personally, I like what you were saying, like T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and then a speed slot guy like Doomsday. Doomsday can go on the outside and he can go on the inside, and he runs a 4.37. So, like, to me, I like that one. I'm not thrilled. I wouldn't be thrilled about drafting a wide receiver in the first round. Like, I know that I'm a big wide receiver guy, but to me, the tight end one is very intriguing when you watch Laporta have the year that he has. And to me,
that was crazy.
Some people think that, I've talked to people that I trust that think that Laporta is a better prospect than Brock Bowers. I talked to some people that think that Brock Bowers is a better prospect than Laporta. Why is that important? Laporta was drafted number 34. So just, you know what I'm saying? It's not that crazy of a difference to me. And there's room for me to believe, just like we thought that Michael Mayer wasn't going to be there at pick 28 or whatever we had, and he was there. I think a lot of people that are saying that Bowers isn't going to be there, there's a lot of teams that just aren't willing to draft a tight end that early in the
especially since a guy like Laporta, right? Like there's a domino effect to that. You know, Laporta wasn't considered the number one tight end, right? And they were able to get him in the second round. Some teams are going to think like, maybe I can get a guy like a Sam Laporta in the second round that may do his thing. One thing I want to talk about, though, we kind of talked about the future. We talked about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Jonah Williams was also interviewed. He kind of said he isn't thinking about the future. They asked him kind of like, do you want to come back? He said he's not thinking about the future, just Cleveland. Does that sound like Jonah Williams is like already like in free agency? Like, I feel like he could have said something like, I want to stay here. Now, I don't want to misquote him.
Right.
Did he say he wanted to stay here? Yes or no? Because
it was a couple of writers that kind of wrote out like how this potentially could be like the end, but that's more like speculation off of those answers. And to me, I don't mind that. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, honestly, if I'm keeping it a buck, and if Jonah is watching, I'm gonna tell you this: you earned it this year. You played great at the right tackle position. If I'm your agent, like just keeping it a bean, you should go into free agency and try to get the best deal possible. I think that's what he would be thinking, especially when you saw Mike McGlinchey last season. However, I think the Bengals would probably be interested in bringing him back. I don't know what that dollar amount is though, but that kind of throws a crux in it. Like when we talk about the T. Higgins dilemma, the reason that it's connected and why who you take in the first round is connected is because if Jonah Williams leaves, who is the right tackle for the Bengals? Like, is it someone that they get in free agency? Does it have to be a guy that they draft, given their bad history of drafting offensive linemen? Like, if Jonah, like, even though I prefer T, the Jonah hole would be there. What would you like? Obviously, we'll get into more of this during the off season, but as it stands now in that scenario, what would you think of doing?
Trent Brown. I don't know if Trent Brown. A lot of people might not like Trent Brown because of some of the character issue stuff or whatever, but those are the same things that people kind of said about Lyle. He kind of reminds me of Lyle in that regard. He's 30 years old, so you kind of get him a little bit cheaper than whatever. He's a little older than what the Bengals normally do, but that's what I'm talking about. I even saw somebody in the comments that say, man, our first round draft pick should be offensive tackle. Bengals fans deserve to not be pigeonholed in any position to say we need to get this position first round because the Bengals neglected to fill it in free agency.
Right.
That is a major key to this puzzle this all season. The only reason why people are going to go against and say, I don't want Brock Bowers, or I don't want Doomsday, or I don't want skill positions. For all I know, there might be a running back that's like out there like second round that I'm like, bro, we should go get him. And then you're going to have all these people that sit there and say, oh, nah, bro, we need to get trenches. And I feel you. Mm-hmm. But the Bengals have the ability to go get those trenches before you even go to the draft. By y'all saying this is the craziest work. This is the craziest work in the psychology. The main people that want the trenches, y'all need to take that same energy and give it to the front office and tell them to give you a Trent Brown before you even go to the draft.
Because Trent Brown is a known commodity. Like, what you're getting with Trent Brown.
No,
you don't know what you're getting with a draft pick, especially picked by this front office at tackle.
I'll take it a step further. I want to have the best room, period, on the offensive line and the best. Like the defensive line is like the fourth highest paid, or the offensive line the fourth highest paid. But say you get a Trent Brown, now my board is wide open. If the dude from Oregon State is there, which I think he might be in the first round, you on paper, we all might say easily that's the best player available, and I like him better than Brock Bowers. That's a separate conversation, and you will have no quarrel. There will be no problem with me. But the problem would be for me is if they go to the draft and they got this gaping hole at right tackle, and now all the fans are like, "Give me that in the trenches. Give me that player. Give me that," because the Bengals front office fails you. They sold us on buying all this stuff. They sold us on we're going to put a quality product out there. They sold us on we are Super Bowl contenders. This past season, without Joe Burrow, we learned they are not Super Bowl contenders, and they were never equipped to be Super Bowl contenders. So now, by you saying that the first round pick, the second round, first round pick, it's got to be offensive lineman, you're letting them off the hook.
You can't.
And people got to smarten up. Y'all
them to draft an offensive line.
Cannot. You can't. But I would trust them. Like the kid I'm talking about from Oregon State. Check this out. Say you get Trent Brown in all season. He's 30 years old. Kind of like Riley Reef a little bit, but he's better. His PFF grade is like an 82. He's nasty. He's punch you in your mouth, and he can move around. Say you still go draft the dude from Oregon State. Now we're playing ball. Now we got Trent Brown ready to unseat. We can move carries up. We could do so many things because now we got a top 5 offensive line in football. But by people saying, I can't believe y'all want to get skill positions at the beginning of the draft, you're a bigger problem. You don't even realize it than the person that's currently saying that they want Brock Bowers, because you're letting the front office off the hook. And I can't say that enough. We have to make it so that the Bengals go into the draft. We've already acquired 2 new defensive tackles, so we're not forced to go try to get our Kalijah Kancey of this year. We've already filled Trent Brown on the right tackle side. We don't care about Jonah Williams. Like, we got Trent Brown. Like, that's how we should be moving into this draft. And if they don't do that, I'm going to unleash hell on this podcast, bro.
For sure. Shout out to our man Diddy. He says draft best player available, free agency, find some big nasties. Pause. That's crazy. But let's talk about this game, bro, before we wrap up here. This game, what does it mean to you? To me, it seems like Jamar is going to play in this game. I would expect, is T. Higgins playing? I don't know if he's going to play or not. I know Jamar said he's playing. This game for me is more evaluation, man. How they end the season. I think for Jake Browning, this is a big game for him. I think especially with this possibly being one of the last that we see from him in a while. That's another thing we can get into this offseason. Should they move Jake Browning for a pick or something like that? But he's kind of doing his little audition here and there. For me, though, it's just about focusing on the guys that are going to be on the future of this team. That's what I'm kind of trying to look at. Charlie Jones needs to get snaps, man. Charlie Jones has not gotten any snaps on the offensive side of the ball. Yoshi, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see Chase Brown. Anybody that's a depth piece, Miles Murphy, these guys that are the young guys that need to play next season. Those are the guys that I want to see. So it's more of an evaluation. I do think that the Bengals could win this game, especially if Jeff Driscoll is the quarterback. That's a possibility that is Jeff Driscoll, which would be crazy, taking on Jeff Driscoll as a Brown in Cincinnati. I don't know what the Browns are doing with this whole former AFC North quarterback thing and adding them to their roster. I guess they ran out of space on the jersey and they just tried to start going after former quarterbacks that actually worked in the division. But that's my thoughts. What are yours, bro?
I feel like it's still an evaluation period for sure. At the same time, it is a meaningful game in the sense of you need to see, can these boys go with a game plan and go beat the Browns even with their backups? And you need to establish something there. You hit on the Charlie Jones one. That is the most important part because this is literally the end of Amigos era probably coming up this Sunday. Now, that's a big deal.
Yes, sir.
You know that, man. That's something that you've been very, very important in this whole the Amigos, and even before then, you remember I was like, "This is the best wide receiver trio in the NFL," and what a ride, bro! Like like for us to get to where we're at right now, it was really fun, and I don't regret like any moment of it. I just wish them boys would have won that bowl, and that does make me sick because now it'll get in that territory on how we talk about a lot of our great wide receivers of the past. Is like we could tell everybody how good Ocho Cinco and AJ Green was, and Hushmanzada and all these people, and Chris Henry, but they don't have
the better trio. Who was the better trio, the Amigos or those three, or was it AJ, Marvin, and Mo?
That's tough.
That's tough, bro. That we gonna say that for
AJ, Marvin, and Mo definitely are three in that whole thing. Yeah, but the number one, number two, I'm not sure if that's like Pop Rocks. That's awesome. I don't know, man. That's tough. That's really tough.
We're gonna answer that one day. We're gonna have to look at numbers and all kind of crazy stuff, but didn't mean to interrupt your thought there, brother. But
no, you good. You good.
What a time to be alive, man. I felt like the one thing that I remember when we were in the stadium during the Super Bowl and they started playing Migos at the stadium.
Remember them warming up?
Yeah.
You remember we were just watching them. We was right there. We was in the front row. I remember they were working out, and me and Ace were the only Bengals fans probably down there yet. We were there so early. We were down there so early at that Super Bowl. The sun was coming in, and all that. And I remember them working out, and like Tyler Boyd was like, turning up. And then I finally was like, Migos, and like pointing it. And then it was like, all right. And then it was just like, here we are, bro.
Yeah. That would have changed.
That was one.
The Migos would have changed the NFL. If they would have won the Super Bowl, everybody would have been like invest in wide receiver trios and keep them no matter what. It really would have. Because think about it. We didn't have a line. We didn't have an offensive line. We literally were all in on those receivers. So if they would have did that, like
that will never. The Bengals run, and somebody made a good point and said we got to stop talking about the 2021 Bengals and stuff like that. And I somewhat agree, but I do think there are lessons and stuff that I like to pull from that, from that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that can ever happen ever in the NFL. Like somebody do that and go to a Super Bowl. Like it's like we learned there were only 4 quarterbacks in the AFC that even made it to through the end of the season. Those 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are still left, they're by no surprise that's the number 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed. You know what I'm saying? Those are the guys that are left because the season's so long. If you're dropping back that many times in the current NFL or whatever, you're not going to last. And that's why earlier in the show you were talking about the T. Higgins, Jamar Chase one. I'm kind of hitting at the durability of Burrow, the durability or the sustainability of throwing the football that many times I just don't know if the NFL is going to award unless they drop off like a game or two or something like that. And we get to like a 15, 16. I just don't know that the NFL will ever see anything like the Migos ever again, because 3 wide receivers getting paid, or high draft equity, or high draft capital, and then you're paying like a number 3 the amount of money that Tyler Boyd was playing. Like teams just aren't built to do that because they all need offensive lines. Right. And so literally you could go get 2 offensive linemen for like what Tyler Boyd was getting paid in the Super Bowl. You ever think about like some of the, so it's crazy when I really think about like how special that team was. And now moving forward, what is the Bengals? And to me, we got a little bit off subject from the Brownies game because I guess I'm not as excited about this game.
Yeah.
But when I think about this team, and I asked somebody this before the season, I said, is there anybody on the team that's untouchable to you? And somebody might have asked me that. I said the only two players are Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase that are untouchable. And we're seeing, think about that 2021 team and the team that we currently have right now. None of them people are there anymore. All the ops that said we're not going to be able to keep none of them people, that secondary, you know what I'm saying, they're all gone. The Ogunjobis and all that stuff, they're all gone. Now, this is a good thing. The offensive line is all gone from that team, you know. So if you think about it, it's really nobody really left. It was just going to be Mixon, Tyler Boyd, you know, and a couple guys here, you know, CJ Uzomah. All them dudes are gone. And we transition right in front of everyone. So, you know, I don't know.
So this is a tweet from Diddy again. Big nasties. I mean, the perfect type guys. No more nice guys. I feel you. But speaking of cooking some guys up, let's toss it to Midwest Best Barbecue. Shout out to Midwest Best Barbecue, 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Make sure that you guys follow the Wincinnati Podcast at Wincinnati Pod on Twitter. Follow Zim at Zim Hude. Follow me at New Stripe City. We will be coming back to you guys with a post-game show. If not that, it'll definitely be Tuesday of that week. And then once the season is over, we'll probably switch to possibly one or two shows. We'll let you guys know. So definitely stay here and keep updated with our thoughts on Twitter and stuff like that. Zen, was there anything that you wanted to say before we get out of here?
I was going to ask you, do you think the Bengals win on Sunday?
I think they do win. There was a stat that came out of sending them home happy, I believe, and home closers, I guess you would call it. The Bengals are like 33-8. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals end up pulling this one off.
Yeah, I got a feeling that they'll pull it off too. I think that they'll play carefree. I know Joe Mixon was on the injury report. I talked to bro the other day. He was really sick. So yeah, I don't know. I think he still plays though. T. Higgins is probably not going to play. I think it's really important to them not to go 0-6 in the AFC North, and then also to end. Say they end up 9-8, and then you get the 16th pick. I do think that it does stop. Like, we might be looking at later on who gets drafted like 12 or 13 and be like, we could have had that guy. But, you know, it is what it is, man. I trust the front office to be a little aggressive this offseason because as we were reflecting throughout this show, and that might be my theme, like going into next year, it's like instead of it is us and why not us is you owe us. Like the front office owe us, like they owe us for real because what they did outside of the Joe Burrow injury, like that's not really their fault. I thought they did what they had to do from the offensive line. I'm not mad at that part. But the depth that they put behind some of those guys on the defensive line, some of the scheme stuff that they, you know, like they felt, and like I said, the product of dropping back that many times. Yeah, it's just not going to work. It's not that Burrow is injury prone. It's just that style of playing, dropping back 40 times plus a game. CJ Stroud and the Texans better take notice of that too. It's not sustainable in the NFL. I'm here to tell you, like, it's just the law. It's just the law of averages. It's not. It has nothing to do with who's more injury prone. Like anybody can get hit or fall on their wrist. It's just. You can't drop back 40 times a game and think that you're not going to get hit. And if you watch Lamar in an MVP season, games where, I mean, bro's going 18 for 21. You know what I mean? Like he's not in the dropbacks are like rollouts or like simple passes or different things that get him out and doing. And yes, he makes plays with his legs and stuff, and then he gets down. But it's a simplified game that keeps him out of harm's way. Even when he runs, he's not running 100 miles per hour and taking on hits like how Jake Browning took last week, or some of the hits that we applauded Joe Burrow getting that hit in the 49ers game. But Lamar Jackson isn't taking hits like that at all, bro. It's hard to get a real good hit on him. They've sacked him a lot this season, but get like a real clean shot on him, he doesn't allow you to do that. And that's the style of football that's sustainable moving forward, I think, for the NFL.
No, for sure. I think it's a win-win whichever way this goes. Bengals either get a higher draft pick or they get a win against the Browns. But thank you guys for listening to the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
I'm Ace.
We got a special show as always.
The voice of the Bengals and Ford, Willie Anderson, Corey Dillon.
The name of this thing is called Wincinnati, and I'm not going to stop.
Talk to us about that roller coaster season.
I'm still gonna give you the same AJ.
I'm gonna work as hard as I can to be the best.
Always working ever since I met y'all, boy.
I gotta get your top 5 receivers.
Better, man. It was good. Watch out for us.